Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar. My name is Shannon Derejo from Creamer Media Webinars. Today's event explores how new technologies are transforming mine productivity and safety. Our panelists will focus on how cutting-edge machinery, digital tools, and specialist know-how are driving efficiency gains across the mining value chain. They'll also examine how emerging technologies are reshaping mine productivity and safety, while also unpacking the evolving nexus between mining and manufacturing, and how South Africa can position itself to meet growing demand for advanced technologies. The webinar is produced in partnership with Electromining Africa and is proudly sponsored by Sandvik, Heliocable, Essentra Components, 4B Africa, and BMG. We'd like to thank our partner and sponsors for making today's conversation possible. Before we get started, please take note of these few housekeeping notes. You'll find the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please post all your questions there at any time. Our panelists will do their best to cover as many as possible during the discussion. The chat is also open for your comments and insights. We encourage you to share your thoughts there. Just remember, though, questions go in the Q&A and conversations in the chat. The session is also being recorded and we'll share the link with you afterwards. We're also streaming live on YouTube, and that link will be posted in the chat once it's available. So with that, let me introduce today's facilitator, Eric Bruggeman, the CEO of the South African Capital Equipment Export Council. Eric is a mechanical engineer with a wealth of experience who has worked for the AFDB and the World Bank on the economics of machinery and equipment. He'll be facilitating the discussion with our panel, which consists of Julie Courtnidge, the Executive Director of the Mandela Mining Precinct, Kabelo Nkwane, the Business Line Manager for Automation and Digitization at Sandvik Mining and Rock Solutions, and Stephen McNeil, Head of Group Marketing at Bell Equipment. I'll hand over now to our facilitator to take the proceedings forward. Over to you, Eric.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you very much. And to our panel, Julie, Kabelo, and Stephen, thank you very much for joining us today. It's always exciting to talk about mining. We've just had mining in Durban in Cape Town, and that was a huge success. But our focus today is to talk on the new mining technology. And of course, mining technology, I know that from an export council, we export huge amounts of mining technology around the world. As a matter of fact, it's in the region of about 220 billion rands a year of mining technology that we do export. And it's great. There's going to be some questions, and I'm going to paint a small picture just for the international visitors and all the visitors that are on here. Mining contributes approximately 7.3% to the GDP, and that's equivalent to about 356 billion. So it's a fair chunk. And of course, we know that the mining is declining, and hopefully we'll get some very positive news from Julie, who will be able to tell us what's happening in the mining. And of course, the latest technologies and designs and innovations will be on display at Electromining Africa in September, with over 1,000 companies displaying their latest products, with over 40,000 square meters of exhibition space. So please remember to book your space at Electromining. And it's one of the reasons why we do well, is it's one of the biggest mining shows in the world. It's by far the biggest in Africa. And we can find and see a trend that after an electromining show, our imports increase, and our members that are exporting normally grow very well with that. So in January 25, there are 561 mines in South Africa, and they're all listed on the African Mining IQ. South African minerals is a mineral-rich country, and we have got some of the largest producers. For example, platinum, we first, coal, we third, gold, we 66th, and diamond 7th. And just to give you a breakdown, is gold. In South Africa, there are currently 90 mines, 28 are currently in operation. Diamonds, there's 46 mines, currently 13 operational. Platinum, 97, of which 27 are operational. Copper mines, 7, of which 2 are operational. Iron ore, 23, 6 are operational. Manganese, 19, of which 11 are operational. Uranium, 7, of which 1 is operational. Coal, 135, out of which 61 are operational. So, and the deepest mine in South Africa is Nkuyeng gold mine at 3,840 meters deep. Driefontein is a close second with 3,420 meters. We have different mines, open cast, we have deep mines, and the open cast mine, the biggest open cast mine still is the Kimberley mine, which is 215 meters deep, and that was dug by hand many years ago. Barabora mine is 800 meters, and Benetini mine, diamond mine, is 450 meters. So South Africa is not scared of doing mining, and we're going to find out from our experts today to hear more about that. I think one of the other good news is that we do have is that the Trump administration, through a court that I don't think Donald really liked, but the tariffs have been brought down from 30% to South Africans to all over across the board to 10%. I believe he said it's going to be 15%. But the good news for South Africa and for South African exporters and mining is that if it is 10 or 15%, it's globally 10 or 15%. So we're all playing on the same level playing field, which makes a big difference. So we're looking forward to that. Now, when I come to the first question, my first question is going to be to Julie, and Julie is with the Mandela Mining Precinct. They've been very active. But the question to you, Julie, is the Mandela Mining Precinct brings together government, the scientists, industry. How does this collaborative model accelerate the development and the deployment of new mining technologies? Could you give us an answer, please, Julie?
Sure, thanks very much, Eric. I think there's two things we need to unpack first. Mining, we conveniently cut up business, whether it's mining or any other organization, into silos. But the reality is mining is a system of systems. That's the first point. Secondly, we use the word collaboration, so easily, but what does it mean? Collaboration means not just working together, because teams and groups work together, but collaboration means everybody brings what we call skin in the game. And the MMP works in a hub and spoke model, where we are the hub through which funds and information and project management is channeled. And our collaborators and our partners and our funders all work together. So if you say, how does that accelerate development and deployment of new mining technologies? It is truly the old sort of aphorism of 2 minds are better than one, or 2 heads are better than one. Our slogan is minds for minds. And it's a really good risk management tool as well. If you've got multiple inputs into a problem, you're more likely to come up with a solution. And innovation very much depends on information flow. And the deployment of new technologies and innovative technologies is quite a competitive matter in mining. But we are now we are now seeing a fundamental shift in mining. We were just at a mine last week, and they have got a solution to a particular problem. And they're saying, can we collaborate with them so that they can share it broadly for the best use in mining industry? So collaboration makes you solve problems quicker. It helps you see risks that you might not perceive if only one person's working on it. It shares information so that there's less duplication and it's much more cost efficient. And with everybody having skin in the game, everybody wins.
Thank you. Yeah, I tend to fully agree with you. I do the adjudication for the innovation at Electromining Africa and kite shows. And every 2 years, I am blown away by the innovation that comes forward. And as long as that can continue, we will continue being leaders. Thank you. Now I'm going to go to Kabelo. Now, Kabelo, thank you for joining us, because you're on a mine itself. And earlier you were saying that you don't like sitting in the office. To be able to do what you do, you need to go underground. So thank you for joining us on a particular mine where you are. But can you share some examples where Sandvik mining and rock solutions have delivered improvements in productivity, safety, or cost efficiency for clients? And what technology do you, or how do you get to that technology? Could you give us an answer to that, please, Kabelo?
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Good afternoon to everyone. Look, there's actually a lot of examples that I can share with you. As Sandvik, we are operating, for example, automation in close to 130 mine sites across, the globe. And out of that, installation that we have successfully implemented over the years, we've exceeded, more than 8 million LTI-free hours with the automation. It just shows you how, significant, such technologies can contribute towards achieving that zero harm for the mine operators. So it's without a doubt, technologies such as automation obviously removes an operator away from the hazardous environment, and put them in a safe position where they can operate freely, and less exposure to threatening or any potential harm to themselves. So that's one typical example of how automation, digital solution, as well as high technologies actually improves the safety at the mine sites. I will share a bit more now, which is real life experiences as well. We do have, for example, a mine in West Africa. This particular mine, they have tele-remote long-haul drilling, and they had about 2 hours after every shift where they lose, those productive hours. So it was usually a dead time for them. And they decided that they were going to roll out a tele-remote solution that can be used during that time. And they set up tele-remotes in the control room. And out of that, an hour to 2 hours, they managed to gain about 80 meters. That typically would have been lost if it was an average conventional mine setup. So again, they improving the productivity for the mine, and obviously helping them to achieve the targets. Another good example where we have seen a tremendous win for a mine was here in South Africa, where we had a mine that operated trucks in a looping system. And there's actually a paper, it's available on SIAM and online as well. Those who know, they can go through it. But the benefits were out of this world. We've seen availabilities averaging about 91 to 94% for that particular mine. The speeds, because of the road conditions, were designed and implemented for that particular automation setup. The speed could be increased up to 27 kilometers per hour. That obviously resulted in cycle times increase, and utilization went up by up to 24%. So that's some of the typical benefits or gains that the mines also see with the implementation of automation. And as I said, the examples, there are many. Just maybe the last share on my side as well. We recently implemented here in the region one of the first Roman pillar automation. And the mine said to me that one of the benefits that they have seen out of that system was a decrease in fuel consumption, with about 15% on the trucks that they are running in that system. So it just shows you that there's so much that the mine can just gain from adopting technologies and systems. It's not just safety only, but it also helps the mine to obviously reduce on their costs, and ultimately then they become more profitable.
Thank you, Kabelo. Stephen, the next question goes to you. Bell Equipment has more than 70 years of experience in manufacturing heavy equipment. Obviously, you don't only do mining equipment, you do forestry, construction, and other equipment, but all for harsh environments. Which recent equipment innovations are delivering the most tangible gains for Bell?
Good afternoon, everybody, and yeah, thanks, Eric. So I think maybe just to give a little bit of context to Bell for those that are not familiar with our company. So as a OEM, we are an OEM. Our factory is here in Richards Bay, KZN, and so we have a development team here. We have about 180 research, engineering, and product testing people that are focused on innovating products within the Bell Equipment portfolio. And Eric, as you know, we manufacture and export machines on a global scale. We export to 100 different countries, and we sell those through different dealer networks. And in South Africa, we obviously have a Bell South Africa, which is the Bell-owned dealer network, selling Bell products as well as other partner products. And so we put a lot of focus on developing products and technology that improves the productivity of the machines, improves the safety, and as well as the efficiency. And so this is definitely a big part of what we do and what we focus on. We know that in South Africa, your mining and construction applications are some of the harshest in the world. And so we as South Africans have to do our best to produce the best products and keep our technology almost at cutting edge or above cutting edge, above whatever else is happening in the world. And we're definitely seeing that. And so our products, as you know, we do articulated dump trucks as our main product line, and we do motor graders and various other products, but primarily focused on above ground open cast mining applications. And so, some of the technology features that we've come out with recently is when it comes to the productivity side of things, we put a lot of focus on automating things into the product, like automatic traction control, comfort ride suspension, auto daily checks, retardation, all those sort of things. Bell in around 2001 were the first OEM to come out with fully onboard weighing systems on our trucks. And then in 2003, we launched a full production telematics system on our truck called Fleetmatic. And so Fleetmatic is the digital platform of all information available on the truck that we are communicating directly to the customers operating the vehicles, so they know how to get the best out of their machines. So that's a huge advantage that we are focusing on to assist on the productivity side of things. We do a lot of work with on the safety side of things. You guys would know that we've designed our machines to be PDS ready, and so our platform on our machine can be easily adoptable for any PDS system needed on a mine site. And as you know, there'll be various different brands of products running on a different mine site, and they want to have the same PDS system. So we've integrated all that technology into our machine so that the plug and play of the PDS system gives the best efficiency for that mine and the safety requirements needed. We are doing work with autonomy, and we have a autonomy ready platform on our machines. There's test vehicles all over the world actually that are testing autonomous, but on an articulated dump truck, those machines are designed primarily for mine development. So it's a lot harder to integrate autonomous into a mine expansion side of things, where you're running in soft underfoot conditions and your mine site is moving versus a solid infrastructure where you're hauling on a set route. So that's just some of the things. We have other features in our machines that we've recently launched, or some of them we've had for a while, but things like hill assist and R-tip and R-safe, all sorts of technology to protect the operators, to protect the machines, to give the best performance of the machines in the different applications. So that's a bit of a highlight. So Eric, there's quite a lot to talk about.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you, Stephen. I do know from a SACIC point of view, you guys are exporting, and I think from the time we started our export of the year in 2018, you've won the export of the year hands down, which says a lot. But now to go back to Julie, from a Mandela mining precinct, which technology areas, such as mechanization, digitalization, or energy efficient, are showing the greatest potential? Which are the areas that people are focusing on most?
Thanks very much, Eric. This is a question that is equivalent to how long is a piece of string? We are a research development and innovation public-private partnership between DSTI and the Minerals Council, and our focus is research development and innovation. But our mandate includes explicitly safety, productivity, cost efficiency, and health, not in, safety, health, productivity, and cost efficiency in terms of importance. So everything we research has that aspect built in. We also incorporate all the ESG aspects into our research. But having said that, there's so much I could share, but I'm just going to share a few of the things that have been done. I can't tell you which single one is delivering the best, and I'll maybe share later in the following question as to why. But for example, in our advanced ore body knowledge program, we have a particular technology called the Stratify Seeker, which is a remote wand with a pod that can scan the face and see X centimeters or meters into the rock face, that will pick up faults, pick up differences in the rock, can see whether or not you've placed your blast holes in the correct place, that kind of thing. Now you can just see how being able to see that ahead of the blast or ahead of barring down, safety and productivity are improved. Another one, for example, that we're working on right now is EPEGs, electronic pegs, and that in itself will improve safety because people will be able to be located. It will improve productivity because things will be very, very specific. So that's just two examples from our geological program. In terms of mechanized mining systems, people see mechanization, automation, and remote working as threatening jobs. And the way we approach it is very much as it's not job replacement, it's job redevelopment. And so in terms of mechanization and remote, it profoundly, especially in, as you mentioned, the very deep mines, improves productivity in those unsafe areas and obviously improves safety because it removes people from harmful situations. And we're really trying at all levels to remove the worker from unsafe conditions. Another example from that program was the Isidingo Drill Challenge that produced a lighter, quieter, more energy efficient and more water efficient drill with good productivity results as well. I mean, that literally allows women to be drill operators, which is obviously a social consideration as well. I think on the digital side, I'd like to highlight what's a very profound development is, although it's quite prevalent, it's the digital twinning is proving to be extremely useful, including, for example, the trackless mobile machinery digital twin that was implemented by some mining houses and proven. So it was developed through the MMP research and proven by one of the mining houses, one of our partners. And then also AI and machine learning are becoming incredibly important in things like predictive maintenance, precision drilling. I mean, precision drilling obviously assists productivity, definitely assists safety because it's real-time feedback of whether or not the drill is going where it's supposed to be, and it's feedback to the operator, not only to the control room. And machine learning also obviously helps optimize efficiencies and identifying potential hazards before they are realized. So I mean, I could go on, but that's just some of the areas. And because mining is a system of systems, if you have any single one in isolation from the others, to be frank, it won't operate to deliver the value that it can when we plug all of those together in a systems model, which I'll talk about a bit later.
Okay, thank you. But I also know that from a mining precinct, you work with a lot of different partners like the MEMSA, and so many others that all contribute all the time.
Yes.
So it's exciting to see that so much is done at the same time by so many people. But going back to you now, Kabelo, for the same kind of question, is the technology, how do you guys get to the technology, and what do you think, or what do you guys experience is some of the best? Is it AI? Is it digitalization? Where does the research and development come from? Can I hand over to you, Kabelo?
Yeah, look, from the Sandvik perspective, it's a combination, right, of all those that you mentioned. So it is not just one specific, technology that it's relevant or can at least address the complexities that the mines are going through. So it will always be a combination of all of them. So we see in the past, as I said, in the last 5-7 years, we saw a very steep uptake when it comes to underground automation. In the last 2 years, we also now, seeing a similar trend with surface operation as well. And at the same time, obviously here in South Africa, we have collision avoidance. That, on its own brings in a lot of technologies, radio frequencies. You've got also the, ultra wideband and all this. So artificial intelligence will also probably be embedded into some of those systems as well. So it's not just one specific tech that one can then choose. On Sandvik side of things, we believe that the future of mining is definitely smarter, sustainable, as well as safe. So what we did was that you'll notice in the last since during the COVID years, we actually launched two what we call the concept vehicles, which was basically full of artificial intelligence, 3D scanning technologies and the likes. But we're now only selecting specific or should I say relevant technologies that we believe that the industry is ready for, because it will also be overwhelming to bring the whole a new complete change into the mines. So the best way to do it is introduce almost one at a time, so that the mine can easily adapt to these new technologies. So to answer your question, yes, yeah, we see a trend in AI picking up in terms of analyzing the data, especially the digital monitoring or telemetry data, so the mines can then make quick decisions based out of that information. So AI is definitely coming up on a large scale. As I said, automation definitely it is out there because, as I said, most of the mines globally have adopted automation. It has actually become easier for the mines to to even implement automation. I would say autonomy at this stage for underground operations as well as surface in that manner is now more off the shelf kind of solution. You can literally go to an OEM like Sandvik or even those that are supplying as well, and you can buy it, and within a week, if you have infrastructure and everything else in place, you then are able then to set up and you can have your mine up and running, within a short space of time. Obviously, there are challenges that I think we can then obviously address later at the mine site. But yeah, the techs are there, and it all depends on what the needs are for that specific mine site. And from Sandvik side of things, we're actually exploring all of those technologies so that we can help the mine. We are not guided by what we want to do from R&D. but we guided by our customer needs in particular. So we look at what the mines are willing to invest in, and then we then try to then plug our systems into that whatever the mine has on the mine side.
Okay, thanks. I've got one question from one of our listeners, and it needs to be a short answer, please, Kabelo. And they're saying, what is Sandvik doing in the rest of Africa, and when are they going to see Sandvik in the rest of Africa? Maybe you are in the rest of Africa. Just for a minute, explain what you're all doing in Africa, please, Kabelo.
Yeah, no, look, we're active. We have actually 3 regions within Africa. So we're active in West Africa, in East Africa, as well as here in Southern Africa. As I said, we've got digital or telemetry systems running across different countries within Africa. We have automation from here, Southern Africa, to all the way to Congo, as well as West. So there's a lot of interventions that we are implementing, initiatives that we effectively put into place, obviously partnering with the mine sites to help them achieve that technology goals. So there's different projects that are running across the continent.
Thank you for that answer. Stephen, back to you now. As a mine pushes for lower cost, we know that everybody wants everything lower cost and reduced emissions. How is Bell integrating and coping with the request for the lower cost that everybody wants? Every year they're saying we need to save money, we need lower costs.
Yeah, Eric, it's an important question. I think with technology changing and emission regulations, that doesn't always result in lower cost, and that's the trick, is making sure that you have the right technology and the highest level of technology, so that you're not throwing massive cost at something that could also take away productivity. So your aim is to innovate in such a way and introduce things in such a way that you are trying to reduce emissions and trying to improve efficiency. So, for Bell, a lot of our design philosophy is around efficiency on the machine, and fuel efficiency is a big part of that. So, we drive very hard to make sure we design our machines so that power to weight ratio is a very important aspect, so that you're not carrying steel around, you're carrying more material around, and you're using less fuel. And that blows through all sorts of areas of the machine. We stay as a global OEM, we stay very close to what's happening in other countries around the world, and emission regulations in the Northern Hemisphere. And one of the things, for example, is our machines are HVO compliant. In other words, you can run a Bell articulated dump truck on hydro-treated vegetable oil, which is an alternative to diesel and things like that. We're staying close to what's happening in developments in technology and investigating hydrogen combustion engines and battery power drives and things like that. But it's a lot trickier on a surface mine development operation, because our machines run in most cases where there's, as I said earlier, there's no infrastructure. So it's a lot harder to integrate some of those technologies in, but we're staying very close to monitoring and investigating those things for future products.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, that's interesting. There's always a challenge, I suppose. But coming back to you, Julie, the adoption remains a major hurdle of new technologies. What lessons has the mining precinct learned about overcoming operational or cultural barriers to these changes?
Thanks, Eric. It's been a very long-term research project, and there's a number of factors that I'll touch on. Historically, it was believed that technology readiness level based on the Frascati model was all we needed to take care of. For those of you, I'm sure it's TRL level 0 to 9, originating with NASA, where TRL 0 is the conceptual kind of level through to 3, and then, you know, sort of 3 up to 7 is the testing or the development, and then 7 up to 9 is the testing, trialing, and implementation. But very often, not very often, in the research we've done, we've discovered a variety of barriers to technology adoption, and I'm just going to run through a few of them. First of all, when you think of adopting a new technology, you must think of change. And I think, well, not I think, I know from 35 years of experience that active management of change in mining has not necessarily been the day-to-day practice. So one of the products that our successful application of technology centered around people program has developed is a change management guideline. And that was recently referenced in the published code of change management by the DMPR. And if people want to go to our website, it's mandelaminingprecinct.org.za. All of this information is available free of charge. You can just download, because we are a PPP and an RDI, a research, development, and innovation organization. So I think active management of change is one of the things that is needed to accelerate technology adoption. The second thing is that adoption doesn't just depend on whether or not the technology is ready. We are busy with a 3-year program that looks at a maturity matrix for a variety of readiness levels, and that includes technology readiness levels, human readiness levels. I made this example in when I was doing a talk quite a while ago, and I told everybody in the audience to swap cell phones and then to call a certain number without talking to their colleagues. And they all looked at me going, huh, what? And it's the same sort of thing. If we just tell a person, use this new technology because it's good, there will be automatic resistance. So it's technology readiness levels, human readiness levels. But what we've discovered, and here I'd love to hear Bell and Sandvik's perspective on this, it's also about vendor lock-in. In other words, because we've now got AI, we've got real-time information management, we've got safety aspects, we've got environmental monitoring, all becoming digitalized or machine-to-machine learning. If it's not vendor agnostic, the technology would have to be adopted in isolation, and that then obviously won't fit into the mining system. So now we're looking at TRL, HRL, and the business operating system readiness level. And then something that many people forget is the market readiness level. And so innovation has to be driven, and technology adoption has to be driven by solving real problems. It's great to come up with this revolutionary product, but if no one actually needs it, it's not going to be adopted. And the final aspect we found in terms of technology adoption is that, you know, even if someone comes up with the most brilliant drill, the most brilliant new haul truck, if a mine has just invested billions in capex to buy a new fleet, it doesn't matter how brilliant the technology is, their investment cycle won't allow them to adopt it. So it's a very widespread issue, and I'm looking forward to the outcomes of our research program that will show how the maturity of each of these aspects plays into successful technology adoption.
That should be very interesting, but thank you, Julie. And I'm going to ask Stephen to, when you ask the question on vendor locking, what is your experience? How do you guys feel about that, Stephen?
So it's a very valid point, Julie, and I think what I mentioned earlier regarding telematics and machine digital information and data that the machines are producing and putting out there. If your customer has to look at, say he's running 5 different brands of products on his line, he doesn't want to look at 5 different telematic systems that are not talking to each other. And so there actually is a ISO protocol linked to telematics. And so we work hard to make sure ours complies with that, where we can where we can pull in other machines' telematics into our database, and they can pull it ours into theirs, and that sort of thing. Obviously, different OEMs don't all provide the same detail of content and stuff like that. It's a lot of, when it comes to telematics, a lot of machines are only connecting to cell phone connectivity, whereas we connect directly to satellite. So, they have different levels of accuracy, and like some of us are struggling with bandwidth, so, you got those sort of things. So being able to communicate within on a common protocol is very important. So I definitely agree with you.
Kabelo, you want to respond to the same question?
Yeah, look, I fully agree with Stephen's view on that. What we need as an industry is to standardize, the communication protocols. So the likes of the ISO, to some extent, also the regulators, in different, countries, also needs to come up and say, this is, how we then need to have or set up our communication channels. So that's the only way, because interoperability is here. We cannot ignore it. You will never find a mine that is, purely using Sandvik. There will be a product out there that is not Bell, or that is Bell, or something is Sandvik, something is another, OEM. So we need to come up with that protocol that, will enable all the subsystems to communicate, seamlessly.
Thank you, Kabelo. But one thing I can say, and as an outsider or running an export council, I'm very well aware that between the Mandela Mining Precinct and Julie and her team and all of our members and other members or other people around South Africa, I think the effort that's been put into getting it right and coming up with the technologies is something that I find very positive. And how do you measure positivity? You measure what you export and what the people around the world think about what we are doing and how we are doing it, and that they want to be part of it. But coming back to you, Kabelo, how is Sandvik's research and development strategy working? Just a quick answer on that. How do you guys do that?
Yeah, so obviously we are constantly, studying and evaluating, the requirements within the industry. And as I said to you previously, that at the moment we see the mines are building what we call sustainable mines, right? So they're looking at bringing technologies that will contribute towards decarbonization. They're also looking at having products that are much safer. Obviously achieving zero harm, as I said in my first answer there. So our research and development is then strategically developing, products that will enable the mines to achieve, such goals for the mine. So we are guided by the mine's needs. To be quite honest. So at the moment, we are focused on, recirculation of materials. So circularity, for example, recycling, for example, steel that we use on our equipment, as well as the carbides that we also have on our drill bits. So we recycle those, and we use the same materials, obviously, then to produce the new ones. So that's some of the things, initiatives that we have in place. I spoke about, digitalization as well as artificial intelligence. There's a lot of, focus at the moment with our research and development towards, building systems that will enable then the mines to adopt those applications. So that's where we are heading. We're heading towards what the mines, need. Then we should be able then to meet their requirements.
Kabelo, just an interesting question from my side. How many offices does Sandvik have globally? Because the more globally offices you have, the more research and development you have, the more people get together, and the more you can innovate.
Yeah, look, I know that Sandvik, we are active in about 150 countries at the moment. But then R&Ds obviously are situated in a few of those. But you're right, a significant portion of our revenue actually, it's actually directed towards research and development. So yeah, we take R&D quite seriously. If you go and check the amount of patents that we have, with different patents offices, you'll notice that Sandvik, we are sitting at a couple of thousands actually, just for our technologies as well as our equipment. So we take R&D quite seriously.
Thank you very much. Stephen, now for you, what operational trends or customer demands are most influencing for Bell equipment product development?
Eric, I think, we do work hard to listen to our customers. That's been a company philosophy from the start, sort of 70 odd years ago. And so we do a lot of testing and innovating staying close to our customers. A lot of our customers running our trucks are your mining contractors that are coming in there. And so we stay very, very close to them. We try innovations with them, and we work hard to listen to what they are actually needing in their applications. In a lot of cases, we've innovated stuff for South Africa that the rest of the world is still getting to. So you were talking about different development centers around the world. I think in South Africa, we are at the forefront of a lot of things. And so, we've launched 4x4 ADTs for the quarrying industry to improve efficiencies in those areas. We work very hard with making sure our machines, as I mentioned earlier, are easy to integrate for the customers and whatever systems they want to add to them. We're from an aftermarket side of things as well. We believe that for our customers to be successful, aftermarket support is crucial. So, even within South Africa, we have about 260 apprentices at any one time in the training program, taking in new apprentices every single year, focusing well into that. And so aftermarket support is a huge key to assisting our customers in staying ahead. So I'm hoping that answers some of the questions. We're working hard to meet what our customers are looking for, really. Whether it's operator experience. Even the recent launch of our motor graders targeted at making sure the operators are running as efficiently as they can and are able to integrate to the machine in a safe way, better visibility, all those sort of things.
Yeah, thank you. And I've been to your factory many times, and it's one that you only, when you walk through it, your mouth opens, and it's just wow. And the number of people that you employ in Natal, and especially in Richards Bay, I mean, it is just absolutely amazing. I'm going to change the subject slightly for the next question. And that question is, it's about our unemployment. And we know that we've got a high unemployment. And we're not going to solve the problem here. But the question that I have is, in South Africa, and this comes from Stats South Africa, we employ about 17.1 million people. That's total employment. Government employs around about 2.1 million. So if you take them off, you've got 15 million people contributing to wealth growth. The expanded unemployment, that's your unemployment, and the people that have stopped looking for employment is about 11 million people. The question is that South Africa has always been a mining town. South Africa has always been very good at research and development. Going back all the years, we can sort our own problems out. When it comes to mining, anything that we do, our engineers seem to find a solution. The question I have to you, Julie, do you believe that in the current state where we are, that we can employ another 2 or 3 million people in the next 2 or 3 years? I mean, we need to employ people if we're going to be successful. Your response, please, Julie.
In the current state, no. If we adjust our business model, yes. And in 2024, we launched the South African Circular Minerals and Metals Initiative together under the auspices of Circular Innovation South Africa. We ran phase 1, and now phase 2 is being run by Northwest University. And the reason I believe circularity is a way to massive employment, and I'm just going to use one very simple example, and I'd love to hear what Bell and Sandvik have to say about this. I met with Steinert, a German company, a few years ago, and on a lot of their equipment, they know from the design phase where each panel, each bolt will go once that piece of equipment is at end of life. And so I just imagine, and this is just my imagination working, imagine if we could get disassembly plants developed around mines and in municipal areas where we know we get people, and let's face it, disassembly doesn't take a huge level of skill, unlike assembly plants where you have to actually know what you're doing. So I believe we could create a lot of fairly readily available jobs by disassembly, but that also, to be more effective, we'd have to go further up the value chain. And so like the Sandviks and the Bells of the world is, can that equipment be designed eventually so that we know where every piece can go usefully within that, either it's the microeconomic system or the local economic development plan, or even broader. So whilst this remains just at the moment a concept, if you don't have a vision, you can't work towards it. So I think it's possible to create a lot of new jobs. That's the first one. That's sort of the lower level of skills. But then also, if we take a really hard look, and curricular change takes a long time in academia, but I believe that it can be accelerated to create new, we don't quite know what's going to happen, but some of the research we're doing is looking at new skills, new jobs, new careers. And so for the professional side, I think there's going to be quite an explosion of opportunities as well. Whether the number 3 million is achievable in 3 years, I don't know, but I do believe we can grow job opportunities in the sector if we just shift the thinking slightly.
Stephen, your response to my question and to the question that Julie posed?
So, Julia, I think it's an interesting concept. Mining machines, by their nature, destroy themselves. And so they have a certain life, and then there's opportunity to rebuild them. And I think that's where that sort of opportunity comes in. And so we have a big part of our business is remanufacturing components to be able to repower machines, to reuse them, to move them into developing mine infrastructures, things like that, where they're not high production machines. So, for example, you take a articulated dump truck running 24 hours a day, and when it gets to its 15, 20,000 hours, you repower it and maybe put a water tanker on it or something like that to use it for less production orientated machines. So there's definitely opportunity for that. But I'd like to just talk more about the manufacturing side of the South African business. And I listened to someone recently talking about how manufacturing jobs are when you put someone through a manufacturing or assembly industry, and you teach them to be welders or assemblers or mechanics or things like that, they are people that can go out and generate their own work. They can actually grow the economy versus other jobs that are just churning stuff out. And so as Bell, we have about 3,500 people that work for Bell. So some of them are overseas, but the vast majority, probably just under 3,000, are in South Africa. And we've worked out, so it's been an independent study was done and saying, well, you as Bell, we have our factory in Richards Bay has 1,200 odd suppliers, and just over 1,000 of them are South African companies that are supplying components to our factories or offering services to our factories, if you're with me. So they worked out a multiplication factor for every job we have at our factory. When we're producing machines, we are producing 10 times that amount of jobs that we have at our supplier base around the country. So if the government can do things to assist with local manufacture and promote local manufacture, the multiplication factor on job creation is huge. So that's a lot of something that we put a lot of value on is on being a South African company, on sourcing things locally as best we can, working and developing local suppliers to supply us and supply the mining industry, things like that. And you're talking about collaboration earlier. We need to work together to grow the South African economy from that perspective.
Thanks, Stephen. Yes, I know, and I can see it with our members that are exporting all over the world. We also work with a factor of 1 to 10. So for every one of our members, somebody he employs, there's 10 people outside that are also employed, which is great. Kabelo, from your side, just to answer Julie's question, or do you believe that we can employ people, or give us your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I do believe that we can, and just leveraging obviously on today's topic about technologies, right? If you look around South Africa, in particular, you have a lot of our ore deposit now sits, in deeper areas where, a human being will not be able to work there in a normal shift time. So the opportunities then obviously now with, automation, digitalization, and all this high tech now being available and being possible, we can then deploy such and open up those mines that were not in the past economically feasible or viable to to start. But now with high tech, we will be able to work. Human beings probably just need to go there for 2 hours, start up all this machinery or equipment on the ground, and from there they can come back to surface and operate internal remote within automation. So there are ways now, as Julie says, we just need to change, obviously, the picture to say, okay, fine, what's the vision now? Where should we be heading? I know that as an industry, there is a myth also, or a concern that automation or technologies actually take away jobs. From my implementation of these systems, it's actually contrary. I've actually seen mines coming back to me and shouting and saying, "You didn't even tell me that I now have to employ 10 more specialists for automation to support automation." Yes, it might displace, let's say, the low-skilled, operators, but then it does, reposition those employees somewhere else. So I think that myth is actually, we need to debunk it as well. I think in the industry that automation is here to take away jobs. It's actually not taking away jobs. And as Julie said as well, for us, Senvic, we believe in, I spoke about recycling, where we support local communities on how to recycle beads and carbide, and from there we can then use it. So that's also creating jobs. So there are many ways that we can, and I believe so much with Julie's statement. Let's just come up with a new vision for our country. Then we implement those initiatives.
Thank you, Kabelo. I think we've got 4 minutes to go, and then we're coming to an end. I have had a look at a lot of the questions that have been posed on the network, and I can say that as I've been making notes, most of them have been answered either by Julie, by Kabelo, or by Stephen already, as they're talking about, especially AI and where to get hold of you guys, and so all of that information. Those are the questions that have come up and the focus areas which we've spoken about. But I'm sure that the Creamer Media will be sending the panelists the questions applicable to them, and they can answer it on their own time. Just in finally closing, I'm going to ask each panelist, looking ahead in innovation, looking ahead in technology, give me your thoughts on looking ahead. Julie, please.
Okay, it's a very apt question because we recently redid our strategy to be futures focused so that we do RDI that will address future issues. I think the 3 takeaways are any innovation in mining must be people-centered. We can't do it for the sake of doing it. And it must take safety and health into consideration as a primary consideration. That's the first one. Secondly, innovation depends on information sharing. So when I started in the industry 35 years ago, safety was used as a competitive advantage. Now we share widely. We have to start sharing information that, yes, doesn't impinge on IP or competitiveness, but let's share what we can for the betterment of the sector and therefore South Africa. And then I think finally, we must continue to actively link RDI with real on-the-ground problems to make it worthwhile for everybody involved in the bigger mining ecosystem. And that will take very deep collaboration, which takes a lot of relationship building and trust.
Thank you, Julie. Kabela, your final comments.
Yeah, so as I said, for us, we believe obviously the future is, safer mine, which is sustainable, electrified, as well as automated and digitalized. So that's where we see the future of mining. As I mentioned before, in terms of what level of technologies or what type, it will obviously be dictated by what is available at that particular moment and what the needs of the mines are. But I think just in closing, I would like to say that the myth in terms of automation being difficult, impossible to implement, and all these technologies to be adopted by the mine site. I did share that we actually just did a project about a year ago, and the beauty of it, which I found was different, was the best practice that particular mine actually employed. So the GM of the mine, what he did was, from the start, when he was defining user requirements, he involves everyone, from the commercial, legal, safety, pretty much everyone is involved. And like Julie was saying, by the time it's time to roll out the system, all the minor issues that's could potentially derail the implementation were then taken care of. Everybody knew that we how to get over the headload of implementing this technology. So yes, we need to collaborate together with the mine houses, work together, do best practice sharing, and together we can actually win this challenge of obviously creating jobs using technologies, as well as improving the employment conditions in our countries.
Thank you, Kabela. Stephen, we'll give you the last word.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion. I think it's really important the people-centric focus. We can develop technology, but it's important that we develop it responsibly so that we're not compromising on jobs and compromising things in the economy that could hurt us. We need to grow responsibly and innovate responsibly. It's like we mentioned earlier, there's no point in developing things that the customers don't want, and also if there are things that are developed and they help the customers, then the customers should be, and the mine should be actually using them. So it's a combination of both, isn't it? So yeah, I think we've got to stay very close to what our customers need and continue innovating around what they require and can help them and do things that grow the economy too.
Thank you, Stephen. And from my side, I'd just like to explain to all our listeners and viewers that we've got two massive manufacturing companies here, one Bell and one Sandvik, and we've also got the Mandela Mining Precinct here with us. And you can see that they talk to one another, they're listening to one another, we're working together. So all of those people out there that think that we don't work together with the mining precinct, we don't work together with the mines, we don't work together with anybody else, all the South African manufacturers, they tend to work together because we all have the same goal at the end of the day, and that is to succeed, whether it's been making a vehicle, whether it's going underground, or just looking after our country the way we need to look after our country and to grow the country that we want to grow. Finally, I'd just like to remind everybody about Electromining Africa. Please go to Electromining Africa in September. It is one of the big shows, and we always have a lot of fun at Electromining Africa. And if you really want to see new technology, you want to see the latest technology that South Africans can do, please go there, because it's a wow factor. That is really a wow factor. And after 5 days of walking around adjudicating technologies, I can understand why the rest of the world are so keen to come in and buy South African product, because we know how to innovate, we know how to solve a problem. And most of the time, it's also because, as Kabelo was saying, he spends more time on the mines and underground to see how he can develop his products further. We got the same from Stephen, how they work, and of course the mining, Mandela Mining Precinct, putting it all together and putting everybody in touch with one another and keeping the balance going. From my side, thank you very much to Creamer Media. And can I hand over back to you, please, Shannon?
Thank you, Eric. That brings us to the end of a very interesting discussion. I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Eric Bruggeman for an engaging discussion, and thank you also to our panelists, Julie Courtnidge from the Mandela Mining Precinct, Kabelo Nkwana from Sandvik Mining and Rock Solutions, and Stephen McNeil from Bell Equipment. Thank you to our sponsors, Sandvik, Helucarbel, Essentra Components, 4B Africa and BMG for their support in making this webinar possible. And thank you also to the attendees for taking the time to join the discussion. We really appreciate your participation. This webinar was brought to you in partnership with Electromining Africa, the leading mining exhibition in South Africa. Taking place from 7 to 11 September 2026 at the Johannesburg Expo Centre, the event brings together mining companies, industry suppliers, contractors, and thousands of professionals from across the continent. Visitors come to explore new technologies, compare equipment, meet new suppliers, and discover solutions that drive safer, smarter, and more efficient mining operations. Visit electromining.co.za to register your attendance or to learn more. And here's a short video to whet your appetite.
Let's do this! Initiate power! Yeah! Into the darkness! Let's do this!
And that, of course, is a peek of Electromining's mascot, Digger. You'll be able to meet him at the expo, so make sure you attend. Our next webinar takes place on the 11th of March at 2 p.m. and will focus on water, where a panel will discuss how to strengthen water supply infrastructure and services. The link to register for that event has been shared in the chat. The recording of today's webinar will be sent to you in due course, and if you have any additional questions, please be in touch. You can reach us at shannon@creamermedia.co.za. Thank you so much for your time, and goodbye.